Bow, bow, bow.
Bow, bow.
It's
Bow, 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 bow,
almost like we've done that before.
Doo-doo-doo-doo.
All right, everybody.
Okay.
We good?
We good? All right, we'll get
All
started.
right. Okay. Welcome to the Writer Dojo Live. Glad to have you all with us today. Now, what is today's date? I don't even know what today's date is.
I have no idea.
Are we in June? We're still in June? Okay. But when this airs, it'll be July, which means this will be probably the first episode of our new season, which I think is season 7?
Season 7.
Season 7. 7?
Nope.
Just 3.
3 years.
3 long years.
We're like British people. We have short seasons.
Yes. Yes, but not quite as bad as HBO, where they have like 2 episodes per season and tell you just to deal with it. All right. You guys know how this works, right? Writer Dojo Live. Okay. A lot of times what we like to do with these is just have y'all come up. This is the time for you to ask your burning questions of us in front of an audience. Your questions will spark a question in someone else, and that's why it's awesome. Okay. Generally, we kind of sort of only answer questions from our supporters. But this is the opportunity for anyone and everyone who's in here to ask whatever you want within reason. Don't ask us about Bessie the bombshell, okay?
Yeah, we already told you guys we're never writing sexy milking parlor Minotaur fantasy farm.
No.
That's not happening.
No.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't say where we're at, by the way.
Sorry. Yeah, we are at the second annual Writers Cantina. So yeah.
Which is an event held in West Valley City, Utah, organized by Nathan Shoemate. And so welcome out, guys. We're really glad to be here. And we came out here last year, had a great time, and looks like it's grown. It's a growing event, and it's just a bunch of writers. If you're interested, it's a bunch of writers just talking about writing. There's no weird stuff or cosplay or fantasy weirdness or sword fighting or anything like that. It's just basically, it's just a bunch of writers talking about writing.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's nothing wrong with sword fighting. We just did that.
I know, we just did an episode on all that stuff.
All right. So, you guys excited to be here? How are we feeling? All right. Now, when people are actually listening to this, they won't be able to see this, so I'll try to spell it out. Just out of curiosity. How many in here have published their first work of fiction, short story, novel, whatever, within the past 3 years? That's like 30% of the audience, probably 20 people, 20, 30 people, okay? That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, of the rest of you, how many of you are actively in pursuit of doing that? So yeah, basically everybody else. Shocker.
Awesome.
That's fantastic, guys. And I think I can speak for both of us pretty easily when I say that's the whole point of why we've been doing this.
Yeah, honestly, Writer Dojo we're kind of a weird niche podcast. If I wanted to just make money and get a lot of listeners, I just do angry political ranting.
Or OnlyFans.
Or OnlyFans. But honestly, me and Steve set out 6 seasons ago to just kind of help people out and to kind of share the wealth and spread some knowledge and get some good questions out there. And it's been amazing. It's been amazing to watch how many people have come up and learned and got their first publishing deals and sold their first books, sold their first short stories, started writing. It's been wonderful.
Yeah,
and I love it.
If the moral of the story is if we can do it, you sure as hell can do it.
Yeah, and we were talking to people they've gotten valuable career advice off the podcast, and we've had people who've made connections. They've met people and started working with different groups. We've had people meet new editors, new publishers, and just heard about a couple of those on the way into the room.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, it's been fantastic, guys. I've been absolutely loving this, and I'm really glad you've been having a good time.
And no one sued us yet.
Which is actually kind of amazing if you think about it, especially after the last few episodes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
No. Especially since some of the people I've talked trash about have like FU money and can hire really good lawyers.
Yes.
So I should probably try to avoid that, actually.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. So without further ado, if you guys want to ask a question, come on up. We have a microphone right here. Okay. You'll have to kind of lean down and talk into it. Get kind of close. Pretend it's.
Actually, I see one of the guys coming up. We're gonna interview you this weekend. Yeah, because your book's coming out.
Yes, it is next week.
Oh, is it next week?
Next week.
Holy crap.
Oh, okay. So Josh Hill's book is coming out by the time this episode airs. His book will be out. Josh is a good friend of ours, and so we were going to interview you
Yeah.
this weekend.
That novel's called Forever Fields.
Yes. Horror book. So
Horror. Extra emphasis on the horror on the end of that. You got to be real careful. This is why I actually have started pretending like I'm East Coasty and I say horror, like the horror. That way there's less confusion, especially if I'm in Las Vegas.
He went to Harvard.
All right, Aaron, what's up?
So my question is, given you both have long experience in the publishing industry now, what would you say if looking out for red flags? What should you look out for to know if there's an agent, a publisher, an editor, so on that you should not work with?
Great question.
Ooh, good question. Okay, red flags in publishing. Who do you not want to work with? Oh, man. I think it's like any other business arrangement. You got to come at it from a perspective, is this somebody I want to do business with? It's just like if you're going to hire a landscaper and you get a bad vibe off the dude, you ain't going to hire this guy to tear up your yard, right? Publishing is the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there selling their services. I think it behooves you to do your research, find other clients. Who has worked with these people? What is their reputation? Is this publisher got a reputation for honesty? Does this publisher have a reputation for not paying people?
Yep.
Does this publisher...
Are they asking you to pay them?
Oh, yeah. Well, okay.
That's the obvious red flag.
Obvious
right?
red flag. Yeah, we didn't cover it. But remember, guys, in publishing, the money always flows to the author, never the other direction. You're not paying. You guys can buy services, right? Yeah. You can hire an editor. You can hire artists. That's fine. But you don't pay someone to publish your books. If they're a publishing house, they pay you. So that's the first red flag. Let's see, what else?
Do any of you guys buy anything on eBay? Yeah, lots of North-Souths. Okay.
Gundam kits for Steve.
Yeah. I can't even. I have so many. Okay. When you're on eBay, say you're going to buy allegedly a Gundam kit, and you see a seller and they have 1,000 5-star reviews, and then you see another seller and they have 3 reviews for 3 stars. Which one are you buying from? The one that has the higher reputation, right? Same concept. Talk to people you know. Talk to, like Larry said, kind of network around, talk with people. This industry is a lot smaller than you realize, and there's a lot of people who can give you good advice. Whenever I'm meeting random folks out in the wilds, and they bring up Brandon Sanderson, for example. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Larry and I were just
I hit him with an axe.
Yeah, and, and our buddy Dave just taught him how to shoot an Uzi. 9mm. And they're like, wow, you know that guy? I'm like, I mean, it's not that big of a community, okay? That matters for a few reasons. One, it's actually not too hard to find dirt on someone or to find if they're an awesome person. And also keep that in mind for your own personal reputation.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask around. Do your due diligence. Find other people who've worked with them. And it also, another thing to keep in mind is that people come and go in this business, and so there's always new people. Mm-hmm. But it does not take long to develop a reputation. Like I'm looking out the audience, and there's some people from Raconteur, and they've developed a good rep really quick.
Yep.
They pay their bills.
Look, that's like 90% of it these days. I know.
Yeah, they pay their authors transparently and honestly and on time. So
Well, and they also have a reputation for actually giving authors edits.
Yeah.
Which is also nice.
well, and stuff
And good edits.
And remember, like any other business, things wane and flow. Sometimes a business will be doing good, and other times it will be doing bad. Staff comes and goes. There are times where a place will be doing really good because it's got really good staff, but like those editors will leave.
Yep.
Agencies is another thing. Agents come and go. So whoever you're dealing with, just try to do your research. And it's there's a lot of stuff out there. Just be smart.
Kit.
All right.
Hi, this is kind of a two-part question. As you rise into prominence and become a public figure, what do you know what that point is, and how do you prepare your family, and what are the impacts upon the family? I know it's more of a Larry question.
Oh wow.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Oh man. Yeah.
Nice, Steve.
Okay, that's an interesting. Okay, so when do you know you're a notable person?
When you get death threats?
Yeah, that is a milestone. That is certainly a milestone. And then
there?
yeah, and then you start collecting those, and you're like, oh, this one's not even this was like 3 stars. No. Low energy death threat.
2 stars. Would not insult again.
It's like, are you kidding me? That's not even the worst death threat I got this week. Well, for me, it's more. There's some I've gotten. There's actually been like 3 or 4 I've gotten over the last 15 years where it's like, okay, this guy.
Okay, that one's serious.
That one's serious. This one's legit. I had one out of a. I can't get too many details because he's probably still listening to this. I've had a couple over the years where I was like, oh, okay, lock and load, boys, and like I'm going to an event near where this person is, and like I would coordinate with guys I knew locally in that area to be in the audience, and they'd be like, this is, and they have a picture. Yeah, I'm not the writer you want to screw with, guys. Just so you know, my fans are not normal fans. When are you notable? I think it's a scale. It's a sliding scale because I'm actually not that famous. I'm only famous in certain nerdy circles. Yeah, that makes sense. If I go to anywhere in like the normal world, nobody cares about a fantasy author. That's nothing. We're not like winning Super Bowls. We're not starring in major motion pictures, right? So the level of fame is much lower. But it's still a sliding scale. Now, how do you deal with the notoriety? My wife is here. My kids are here. One of my kids are here. I don't know if there's a good answer to that. You just deal with it, I guess.
I tend to not use any PPI online. That has to do with my PII, personal identifiable information for my family. I never say what my kids' names are online. I never say what my wife's name is online. I just don't.
I used to not until they became notable on their own. Because like my wife is actually pretty well known in like fandom communities. She's way more popular than I am. True. Like we did the Larry and Bridget show at Dragon Con one year. We had like 300 people for like 3.5 hours. I'm not even joking. We closed the place down. I would say my kids, I didn't really ever reveal their names until it was up to them.
Yeah.
Because weird psycho people, you guys will upset weird psycho people. Guaranteed. If you do anything of note in your life at all, you're going to hurt somebody's feelings and they're going to say dumb, mean crap about you. You just got to take it and you just got to deal with it. Deal with it however you yourself are psychologically wired to deal with it. A lot of people, that's avoidance or not engaging. I don't really do that. That doesn't come naturally to me. I'm not the disagree nicely guy. So that's going to depend. It's going to depend on you personally and where you are psychologically and how you like to deal with stuff and how like you like to confront issues.
Well, and the type of fame that you've achieved, right? Like the type of fan that's approaching Larry, in that type of regard, is very different from the fan that's approaching Laurel Hamilton.
Oh yeah, no, that's a great example.
Laurel has 2 specific bodyguards that walk around with her when she's out in public, no matter what.
So like me,
because of the threats she's received.
The people I'll tick off and why I tick them off is different than like somebody who writes sexy vampire, supernatural erotica stuff and the kind of person that will attract. And so I was well into my career before I got to know Laurel, and we're good friends. She's awesome. I love her. She's fantastic. But like we were at an event, and we were actually talking about that and the different kinds of people who we were sharing like death threats and whatnot. But she's one of the only authors I ever met who had legit real security and needed it.
Yeah.
Like straight up. Like me, 99.99% of the people I deal with are awesome and they're great. And I get the occasional psycho crank. No big deal. But Laurel would get people like kind of weirdly fixated, stalkery type stuff. And that's just kind of the nature of the business, guys. It's going to depend on what you attract, like because of what you write and who you offend or fascinate. So don't really have a good answer for that. I'm a big fan of getting your concealed weapons permit and also Palm brand pepper spray. Not a sponsor, could be.
Josh.
So my question, as a new author who would want to one day branch out to other genres, should I be more secure in the genre I'm writing now, or go ahead and start branching out, writing other things?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think part of it will depend on the success that you see immediately. I mean, if you know, three weeks from now, you're like, you know, making pillows out of gold bars, then, I mean, doesn't seem very comfortable, but I'm sure you can wipe away your tears of miscomfort with $100 bills at that point.
That's an interesting one.
If you're having tons of success, okay. You know, I mean, I've talked with a lot of guys who are really big into like the mill SF genre. They make tons of money at it. They do great in it. Do they want to write something else? Sure. But they have to weigh the opportunity cost of doing that against, you know, continuing on with paying the mortgage, as Rick Partlow says.
Well, yeah. So as Steve's saying that, I'm looking at Rick and
Jeff.
At Jeff Haskell, who are both military sci-fi writers and doing really, really well.
Yeah.
And so like each military sci-fi novel these guys turn out is a pretty guaranteed return, right? You guys are saying now this is pretty reliable.
Yeah.
If you stop and write a fantasy novel right now, that would be time and also risk.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the equation is time and risk. Like me, I kind of got established as a multi-genre guy pretty early. And so that's kind of how my career's been. I think it'll just kind of it's in business terms it's opportunity cost.
Yeah.
It's like it's not just profit or loss. It's like profit or loss compared to what you could have been doing during that same time period. Now, if your first thing doesn't strike gold, then by all means continue to experiment. Or if you have the time management to do another side project and prepare that for launch while doing the thing that's making you money, do that. If that makes sense. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer on that. I think it's just going to depend on how your career goes and gets established.
Well, and if your goal is to make money, follow the money.
Yeah.
If you want to write a weird passion project and you literally don't care about the money, okay.
Also, it's
But
harder.
understand what you're sacrificing at that point.
It's harder to now be multi-genre financially successful than it was in the olden days, because in the olden days you had more time delay. In traditional publishing, you would write the book, turn it into the publisher, and it's hitting stores for a year, right? Now it's electronic and it's independent and it's like boom, 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 and you're turning and burning, right? So it's not like you have 6 months of downtime in the year before your next fantasy novel under contract comes out.
Yeah.
You could have that out on Amazon next week. So that's all, and time value of money. Yeah, we're accountants first, which is probably makes us the weirdest writing podcast.
Aiden?
Yes.
Okay.
Cool hat.
Thank you.
He's wearing a Monster Hunter hat.
So a bit more of a nuts and bolts question, but how do you go about describing real world accents in a fantasy world where those kind of countries don't exist?
Oh, I've never thought of that. Honestly, that's not something I've done. So if I'm writing a fantasy that doesn't have a real world analog, I actually don't talk about the accents. So I'll have like point of view characters remark on an accent, like oh, so and so has got a weird Southern accent, but it's Southern in context of Locke, which is more Himalayan. You know what I mean? Or Servants of War.
Yeah, Servants of War. It's totally not Russia, totally not Germany, and totally not gypsies, right? Like, the accent portion of that only really mattered for the audiobook narrator.
Yeah. And with the audiobook narrator, we specifically just said, hey, Amos is Jewish.
Yeah. He's totally not Jewish, but Jewish.
Yeah. And, and so we could basically go through and be like, oh, yeah, the Almatians are straight up Germanic. They're going to sound Germanic. But as far as in the book, we would never actually put that. I mean, come on, it's called Almatia. I mean, that's literally like German in half the world. But we never actually nailed that down in book because it would kind of break the immersion of it. So that's one of those, I think you got to kind of trust your readers. You know what I'm saying? So like if every name and place and something has like a vibe and a flavor, like I'm writing Son of the Black Sword, it's very Indian, even though they're specifically not in India, right? But because of the names, your audience is gonna create a vision of what that's gonna sound like. You know what I mean?
Now, if I were writing in a secondary fantasy world and I wanted to bring that in, potentially one of the ways I would do it, it would be very minimal as far as description. I would have character A talking about character B, and they would say, oh, character A is from Southlandia. And, they tended to stretch out their A's a little bit. But that's pretty much as far as I would go because readers don't care that much.
Well, like in Son of the Black Sword, I got Ashak goes to Fortress. It's like the only foreigners they actually have, right? So he goes there and he complains constantly about their accent and how he can't understand them. Yet, as I'm writing, they're both in English.
It's very clear.
And they're both in English. But to the ear of each other, to the point of view characters, they're clearly foreigners with a accent that's difficult to understand. But as far as what that actually is left up to the reader.
Sachi Takahashi, not yet 19 seasons old, is in deep trouble. She has just killed the only son of the lord of corrupt clan Ishikawa, a man who will spend weeks torturing her to death. Now she must flee her homeland, but Clan Ishikawa reaches throughout the empire and into other nearby nations. So she must seek a ship on which she can hide until it reaches her goal, the nearly mythical kingdom of Montagar on the other side of the world, a place beyond even the reach of her clan lord's thugs and murderers. She had to find a tall ship. To Find a Tall Ship by A.G. Thompson, coming June 2024 from Chromosphere Press. Pre-order your copy today.
Hi, Jonathan Sugar, longtime listener, first-time caller.
Mega dittos.
So I'm an indie guy, and I'm actually releasing a book on Sunday, which is super
congratulations.
exciting.
Right on, man.
But I have a question for new authors or indie authors who are looking to go trad. That's what they're writing specifically to do. In the news in the last week, we had this redacted agent who decided to take queries from an author
That was so sleazy.
and
That was
then
so
shop it out to
Yeah.
other people. But that also happened again. There's a lawsuit that's going on as well,
Good.
where this one author's query got taken, shopped out to someone else, turned into a USA Today best-selling series,
Oh.
and now they're going after them with a lawsuit. So the question is, a lot of authors already have this paranoia and this fear about letting their ideas go out there. Somebody's going to steal them. I'm going to mail it to myself so that I have evidence. Now, how much of that fear is valid?
Well, I that's a good question because this is current events, guys. And so from what I saw, I didn't know about the second one with the USA Today. So I saw the first one pop up on Writer Twitter. we were probably gonna do a episode
Yeah,
about
we were
this
probably going to
specifically.
fist that one anyway.
But it's so sleazy. So this guy, I'm sorry, this woman. So this woman from some agency says, "Wow, I just got this pitch, and it was what was it like Deliverance Meets the Road.
Yeah, that's what it was.
She's like, and I need someone to write that for me. Yeah. She's like, I need somebody to write that for me. And somebody goes, but not the guy who queried it? And she's like, oh, no. We're like, what? You evil hag. And apparently she got fired, which was, but that's CYA for the publishing house, or for the agent. That's covering their butt.
Yeah, they had no choice at that point.
Honestly, they had to fire her because she just went out there and set herself on fire, is what she did. She just committed career suicide live on Twitter. Just kind of like we watched somebody else commit career suicide last night in a debate. But sorry. Okay. All right, back on track. Okay, but no, this brings up a really valid. It's no matter how bad you think it is, it's worse.
Yes.
So in this situation here, it's valid. You need to cover your butt, okay, and you need to keep track of your ideas in case of that kind of thing. And I hope this person wins this lawsuit. I don't even know the details of the second one. Now, normally the publishing industry is like, once again, we talked about earlier about research and respect. There are rip-off artists in this business.
Well, and there are a lot of agents who have supposedly or had supposedly a very good reputation, who once dealing with them, or when more information comes out, you realize that they don't perhaps have that same type of credibility. I mean, we know of one very, very specifically who, instead of shopping her own stuff around, or instead of shopping her client stuff around, she used it to get in the door and shop her own stuff.
Yeah, this very sleazy, sleazy woman.
Very well known.
Very well known. Very, very well respected agent. I was making finger quotes as I said that.
Yeah.
So she was neglecting her clientele to promote her own stuff.
Yep.
So she would use her agent status and her clients to get her in with publishing houses to try to pitch stuff, and then she'd pitch her own books. Yeah. So I'm not probably the best person to ask about this because I don't have an agent. As you guys know, I'm unagented. I don't do that. I can read a contract, so I don't have an agent. I don't know.
And we can do math.
I can do basic math.
Yeah.
You know, and so I've never had an agent. And we've told the story on the show before where an agent who I tried to get an agent when I was first starting out because that was what you did, right? And I got rejected by all of them. And then a couple years later, I'm at a party and this guy comes up, major, big, like top tier agent comes up and I go, oh, wow, Larry Correia, your career blew up. You came out of nowhere. Wow. Who's your agent?
Yeah, that was in San Diego.
Yeah, and I go, I don't have one. I'm unagented. And he goes, oh, ooh, really? We should talk. And I'm like, no, you rejected me. And I was like, hey, have a nice night. It's nice to meet you. Because I was more like, yeah, you could add 15% of this, but you didn't. And so honestly, that's one of those things that's really changed. But that's really a trad pup thing. If you're going independent, obviously you don't need one. Just do your own thing. All right. We've talked about this on the show in more depth. But if you're trying to go trad pub, that is kind of a prerequisite for a lot of publishing houses. That's the only way in the door. So I don't really have a good answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that
there's a lot of screwed up stuff in this business.
Okay, in regular business, has anyone here dealt with human resources or worked in human resources?
Every hand went up, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So if you work in human resources, the key phrase is documentation. How much documentation do you have to prove that what you are saying, or that the stance that your company is taking in that regard is valid, that you investigated properly, okay? On the employee side of that relationship, do you have documentation, do you have documented proof of a complaint that you have lodged maybe last Friday, theoretically? How much documentation do you have on that? Do you have people who can back up your documentation, back up what you've been saying? Same thing applies here. Okay? How much documentation do you have proving that work was your work? And if you have enough to generate a legitimate lawsuit, that publisher's in trouble.
Yeah, and you do have your dated query letter.
Yep.
and you have the evidence of it, and you also have the response from them to you that shows that they at least saw it.
Hopefully.
Even if it's the form letter.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And that's the, I believe they call that discovery. And they call that evidence.
And if you are submitting through email, if you're using, certain programs have read and delivery receipts that you can turn on when you're delivering query letters or synopses or first chapters. I would turn all those on. It's not paranoia if they really are out to get you, right?
And this one clearly was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Screw her.
Hey, Don.
Hey, good morning. How are you guys?
I'm not dead yet.
The good side of the dirt.
Yeah.
Back in the day, if you wanted good gun porn in your novels, the only thing that was really available was Jerry Ahern's Survivalist.
I remember Jerry.
I read every one of those. I was in the Air Force. But other than that, basically nothing. But I've noticed ever since you wrote MHI, especially in military science fiction stories, I've noticed a propensity of the main character carrying 1911s ever since you've come out with MHI.
I did actually, I have actually, in my own small, really weird, nerdy way, changed the cultural landscape.
You've sent out a lot of ripples, I've noticed, Larry.
It's weird because I'll pontificate on this for 1 second. 15 years ago, I was just a schlub, right? And I'm 15 years into my career now. I am finally, for the first time, starting to get professional respect from like real publishing. And I'm like, screw you guys. I mean, very much 15 years I was dog food, and now like, wow, you're a respected voice. And I'm like, shut up. So I have like this weird thing going on right now, and like how my stuff is received in the wider world, and part of me is like, oh, cool, about time. The other part of me is like a little bit like, kind of bitter, like where the hell were you for the last decade? So but I have actually influenced a lot of stuff actually in fantasy, sci-fi, and especially on the gun nuttery side of things. Plus, there's that cultural pendulum swing. And that is kind of swinging back right now from where it's been, and we're seeing some of that in entertainment.
And again, this is a small world, okay? Especially, the world gets smaller and smaller every day as information becomes easier to pass and easier to attain. And so small world means it's easy to have influence, both for good and for ill. Fortunately for Larry, it's for good.
Yeah, I've sold a lot of 2011s.
Yeah.
It's like you've opened the closet door to let all these guys come out.
I did. We were in the closet together.
Come on up. I'm not touching that.
On that bombshell.
That was interesting.
Hey, Aaron.
Name's Aaron. Nice to meet you guys again. My question is, at this point in your careers, if you had an underperforming book or a flop, God forbid a flop, how would you course correct? How would you go about autopsying that?
Great question. Yeah, you've done that.
I've done that. I love Gunrunner. You guys read Gunrunner. A lot of you read it. It's a great book. Great book. I love it. I love that universe. I actually use the same universe for Lost Planet Homicide, which is doing fantastic on Audible. But Gunrunner came out right at the height of COVID, and all the bookstores in America were closed. Everything was weird. No one was commuting, so there was like audiobook sales right
Across
at that
the
time.
board
Tanked. Everything tanked. Even ebooks kind of held steady-ish, but they were hit or miss because everybody was like binge streaming Netflix and playing video games, right? So the entire market just like completely collapsed. And so that was the first book I had in my entire career with just a dead launch. But what happens there is it just kind of stops the series, and so I could continue and try to do a book 2. We have plenty of ideas. It's a huge world, and I could go do a book 2, but it hasn't been financially worth it to me. It's once again going back to what we talked about earlier, opportunity cost. My opportunity cost to go back and revisit that after the first one was a dud would be too high. It was just because it's still actually money-wise solid mid-lister, but for me it goes back to opportunity cost. Most of the things I write, I know I can make a certain amount of money off of. So if I could do another Son of the Black Sword, or I can do another Monster Hunter, or revisit Grim Noir, I know I'm going to make more money than if I do this. So yeah, that's a tough one. But you just got to kind of. It sucks too because like it might be a thing you really loved and it was really great and fun, but it's just once again this comes down to business decisions. Or I could do an entirely new project, like I'm doing a new thing. My next one that is in the queue is a progression fantasy for Aethon. I've never done that before. I'm gonna see how that goes. I've never done a KU thing before. Actually, we're gonna have a KU, somebody who knows KU on really our next episode. But yeah, so I'm learning about this stuff as I go. So I don't want to get stagnant. So be real careful when you fail that you just don't throw good money after bad. There's that
Sunk cost fallacy.
Sunk cost fallacy kills a lot of businesses where you lost money, but you're like, but I already put so much effort into this loser. I really need to keep going. Actually, that explains a lot of marriages too.
It'll be better this time, baby. I swear.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, he's got a Disturbed
Hey,
shirt
Marco.
on.
Yeah, because I have taste. That's why.
That's right.
Dude, Disturbed rocks.
He was like probably like 10 rows behind
Literally,
us at that show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was there
Oh,
too.
yeah. Well, yeah, Josh was with me.
Oh, yeah.
That was uber pissed.
Oh, and Dan's here, and we almost
Oh,
got,
yeah,
in a-
Dan
we
is here
almost got
too.
in a fist fight.
Yeah.
With yeah, it was great. So Dan, and I tell you this, Dan will step up and throw hands. Like I gained a lot of respect. Dan was like ready to throw hands. It was awesome.
I will record to monetize it on YouTube.
Me, Josh, and Dan were ready to beat the living crap out of this dude who like all of a sudden grabbed my son.
I was going to make a
And
switch.
the dude was pretty drunk. And it was funny because like my dad switch flipped and I just went in right into like head down going towards fight mode. And I look over and Dan is right at my right. And Josh has moved around right behind the guy. This dude was about to get a butt kicking of epic proportions and didn't even realize it. And his buddy who was sober saw it and was like, oh crap.
And I turned my phone landscape because I'm
like,
not a savage.
I'm 6'5", Dan, you're 6'6", probably, and Josh ex-cop was like, he went into like tackle mode, and so all of us just kind of circled this part. And my son's 6'6", that got grabbed, and so this dude was about to get a whooping. Don't drink in public, guys. It leads
And you
to dumb
guys
decisions.
stopped it. We were going to make so much money.
Yeah,
Well, I'm still sad I didn't see you guys at the Disturbed
Yeah.
show, though.
it was awesome.
I saw Steve at the Sabaton show.
That's
though.
right, we did.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love Sabaton.
Hell yeah. Anyway, real quick, how many books do you think one should write before they strongly consider querying or self-publishing if they're indie?
There used to be some weird trad rule about that. You know, you had to throw away 1 million words before you were allowed to do anything. I don't know. It's stupid. Doesn't matter. I think that a person can publish the first thing that they've ever written as long as it has gone through good reading, good edits, good editorial, so on and so forth. That's going to vary widely from person to person.
Yeah.
I mean, the very first thing that I wrote was utter trash.
Yeah.
And it will never see the light of day.
I think that was our last episode.
Yeah.
We talked about our beginnings
Yeah.
as writers.
Other people, the very first thing they write, man, maybe they're just good. Maybe they're just talented.
I think it's going to depend because the first thing that I wrote was not ready for prime time. My first book wasn't ready for prime time. I told that story last week's episode, and I wound up cannibalizing all the good stuff later and throwing it into a different book that did get published. But then again, you got Christopher Paolini, was 15, 16 years old.
He was 15.
And made $1 million off his first book. What was it as good as it could have been? No. Clearly he was a 15-year-old kid. Nobody is good at everything at 15, right? We all
at anything at 15.
We all sucked at 15, right? Every one of us here, whatever your thing was, you sucked at it. And now that we're old, we can recognize that. But honestly, he made a lot of money and launched a career off that. I don't know. I don't think there's a right answer for that. I think the question is, it's that old caveat I've said on the show a bunch of times. The two goals here are get good enough that people will give you money for your stuff, and then find the people who will give you money for your stuff. So the first question is it good enough that people will give you money for your stuff? It's yes or no. Okay? If it's good and you wrote a thing and you hit gold right out the gate, then by all means, pitch that thing or sell that thing.
Yeah.
You know? There's a lot of markets out there for, especially if short fiction, get your stuff out there. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
Now, some people will do the polish the turd thing.
Yeah.
And they'll spend 10 years working on the same book and never submit it. That is a shiny turd.
Real shiny.
You know? That
So
dude ain't
much
never-
lipstick.
Yeah, that dude ain't never, there's a lot of, that pig is coated in lipstick.
I mean,
But you got to get it out the door at some point, right, guys? So honestly, I think that the key is look at it and say, is this good enough that I'm proud of it and I'm think it's ready to go out in the world? Then go for it. Problem is, a lot of people are bad at that decision, which is why the guys that run slush piles can tell you so many stories about the horrible things they've seen, because a lot of us are really bad judges of our own work. But you never know until you try, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think the answer to that one is it depends. That's the safe answer to most
oh,
things.
you have a great name.
Oh, thanks. Capone, you know.
I was just going to say Steve, but you know, whatever.
Oh, all right.
Everyone whose name's Steve I've met so far has been wonderful.
I feel the same way.
Right. Obviously.
So I got lucky and found a traditional publisher for a thing, and it is still 2 years out. But I read my own contract. I'm the son of lawyers, so they kind of taught me to read that kind of stuff.
Excellent.
But I don't know what I don't know. And I wonder are there some things to watch out for? This was kind of a boilerplate thing. It was pretty standard, and I compared it to other things I found online, and I think I'm fairly smart. But then again, like I said, I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, the unknowns of the unknowns.
Yeah, so what do we look out for? I tend to think I'm not going to get an agent unless I'm chasing a big house, because they're the ones that won't allow me to submit otherwise. But for little presses, why would I give an agent 15% of a small amount of money?
Right.
So, what should I be looking out for?
Okay, pitfalls.
Contractually speaking.
Yeah.
Okay. We had an episode on this, but which look up if you get a chance.
It's buried somewhere in the 100-something episodes.
That said, the stuff to watch for is don't give away any rights that you don't need to. Mm-hmm. A lot of little presses want to gobble up the rights to everything related to your book, even if they don't have any ability or intent to sell those things. Movie rights, audio rights. I mean, if they're selling stuff to Audible and getting it on Audible, hey, that's great, and you're getting your percentages, that's wonderful. If they're not, you keep that.
Yeah. Foreign language rights.
Foreign language rights, translation. Dramatic is your TV shows and your movies. If they're not developing this stuff, don't give that away. Keep that.
I tell authors these days, the thing you should absolutely keep to yourself, and this is partly selfish, is your special edition rights.
Yes.
Do not give those up.
Graphic novel adaptations. Huge. Especially since graphic novel is going to be directly related to dramatic rights, because pretty much anything that's getting made into a movie, they're going to make into a graphic novel first, because Hollywood people don't read.
Nope, they like cartoons.
I'm dead serious here, guys. I'm going through this again right now. Yeah. I'm renegotiating. I got 2 bids because the MHI options expired. So I now have 2 bids from 2 different production companies trying to buy Monster Hunter. My wife's raising her hand.
When do you get your rights back?
Huge one. And this is when there's a reason.
Rights reversion clauses.
There's a reason she's asking me this. Rights reversion clause.
Yes.
If you have something out there that you've written for somebody and they are no longer doing anything with it, make sure it's clearly spelled out in that contract when you get it back. Usually it's when the books are out of print if it's a trad publisher.
And same with short stories. Most short story contracts have a rights reversion clause. What's Raconteurs, like 6 months or a year?
Yeah.
That's standard.
And we still pay you after a year.
Yeah. But the non-exclusive rights go away. You have the rights back to it again.
You could sell it to a different anthology or collection, or you can make your own,
Yeah.
which Steve and I have both done. And it's just, hey, it's a little extra bonus money selling your collection of short fiction. So rights reversion is huge, 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 huge. Make sure it's clearly. You don't want to give them the rights for eternity.
Yeah.
In perpetuity forever. Make sure you get your stuff back.
The other two things are ROFRs, right of first refusals. What do they have the right of first refusal on, if any? If it's okay, so like Servants of War, right? Like Bane has the right of first refusal to see anything, any novel length item within that series. That's fine. They do not have the right to any other speculative fiction thing that we happen to write together. Okay? Right of first refusal.
There is actually, there are some small presses in Utah,
Yeah.
especially clustered around religious issues,
Very, very predatory.
where they're exceedingly predatory contracts, where their right of first refusal is the worst thing I've ever seen, where it's basically they don't just own this book, but they own
Your soul.
your soul for eternity, and you need to give them a golden fiddle to get out of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so you can't write anything. Oh, the worst I ever saw was a friend of ours in the contract, and you know exactly which
I
one
know
I'm talking
exactly
about,
which one you're talking
where
about.
it was
everything.
if you write anything else that's fantasy or sci-fi or genre fiction, it could be considered competition to this book that you have for us. Ergo, we have to approve it before you could sell it to someone else. I want you guys to think about how evil that is.
So that's a combination of a ROFR and also a non-compete.
I saw
right?
that and I was like,
you don't
are
want either
you
of those.
friggin' kidding me?
Yeah.
You signed this? What is wrong with you?
On the accounting side, look if you happen to be getting an advance, look for the rules upon which you are getting your advance.
Yes. This is huge.
Is it per book? Is it basket accounting for the entire series that you have? How are you gaining your advance? Is it all up front, or is it like
Are they
a third?
right?
Stuff like that.
Also, it should be you are paid a percentage of
Gross.
Okay. Like if the cover,
royalties.
if the book is $10 and it says you get 10%, then you should get $1 per book.
Yep.
What you got to watch out for, and I'm just making up numbers here, but what you got to watch out for is we'll give you a percentage of profit. That's what Hollywood does to never pay anybody. And then they'll just like create expenses where they're getting the money and it never makes any profit. That's why there's all these jokes about Hollywood movies that, made $500 million at the box office, but everybody involved never got paid because it never was profitable.
Or the old accounting joke, 1 + 1 is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, because they'll just create ancillary costs where they're getting paid, but it never filters down to the profit line where the people contractually who would get a percentage of that get a percentage. So make sure your publisher is paying you. If they sell 10 books, you should get $10, okay, or whatever your percentage is, not some bogus thing based upon numbers that they control entirely, because then you are at their mercy.
Those are kind of the big ones. Is that cool? Awesome. I think we have time for one more. Can we have him come up since you already asked a question? Come on up, Chris.
So I wrote an unpublished novel 25 years ago when I was in college, and then proceeded to get married, have lots of children, and kind of put that aside. So my youngest just graduated high school, so I bought a Jeep and decided to start writing again.
Nice.
And
I approve. Sounds very familiar.
And so obviously the world has changed in 25 years, not just publishing, but just socially and everything like that. And coming to this Writers Cantina, even just in the couple hours we've been here, has been very educational, but it's also been an eye-opener of like, so much has changed and there's so much I don't know. Besides your podcast, what are some good places to go to learn just the basic structure of the current writing? Like acronyms and abbreviations, like everybody's talking about trad and indie and things like that. So like
so
I'm
just like
talking
basics.
basics.
Okay.
Jeez. I don't know. The reason me and Steve started this podcast was because of our deep dissatisfaction with what was available in writing advice. Is there a glossary of terms out there for basic publishing industry stuff?
Maybe we'll just do an episode.
I think we're going to have to do an episode.
We just
yeah,
list off acronyms.
There must be. Like if you looked up any of these online, I'm sure you'd find discussion of
We'll
them.
give ourselves government PTSD first time we started going into those things.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah, because like we were government contract accountants, and there's like 50,000 acronyms that make no sense, CLINs and POOs and whatnot.
Yeah.
But geez,
I don't know off the top of my head. We'll ask someone else.
I think we'll have to do an episode on that because I honestly don't know of like an overall glossary of publishing
Of random stuff.
like basic publishing factoids. There must be one. I don't know it. I don't know. Yeah. All right, we'll do an episode on that. All right, cool.
All right. Okay, so we could go on and on and on and on, as you guys know. But that's all the time we have because there's like people outside or something.
Yeah, there's another panel coming in.
Whatever. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your support. Thank you for your questions. Thanks for coming to see us. And thank you for not suing us. We really appreciate it.
That's really nice. That's the best part.
All right.
Bum, 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 bum,
Bum,
bum.
Bum, ba-da.
Dun, dun.
WriterDojo is Steve Diamond and Larry Correia. Produced by Jack Wilder and Bear and Hare Studios. Theme song, Word Mercenaries by Craig Nivo. New episodes come out every Wednesday wherever you stream your content. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can help support us by going to anchor.fm/WriterDojo, by leaving a 5-star rating and review, and by helping to spread the word. To advertise on the Writer Dojo, email ads@writerdojo.com. All questions and comments can be emailed to questions@writerdojo.com.
Thanks. You can go.